the show with your friend and mine. So tell me, Doctor Squee, who's it gonna be this time? We like to hear you talk, and we love to hear you listen. And if you are not subscribed, you won't know what you're missing. So welcome to the Doctor Squee Show. Welcome to the Doctor Squee Show. Welcome to the Doctor Squee Show. Headphones up. Here we go.
Hello and welcome to the Doctor Squee Show. I'm Doctor Squee and this is my show. As you may have got by now, we're on a little bit of break from the interviews. They will be coming back in December. However, in the meantime, we are going through all of Twin Peaks. So we've done the original series, we've done the movies, and we're now on to the return, filmed in 2017. And there's only one man I'd have to join me to go through all things Twin Peaks. Please welcome back to the Doctor Squee Show, Deputy Jim. How are you doing?
Hello.
So I said I was Doctor Squee for the purposes to say, of course, I'm Special Agent Squee. You know, like we're on the mission here.
Of course, yeah. And this is where the mission gets really interesting.
Oh, it does get a little bit spicy here. Like this is, you know, this is as weird as Lynch might have got if he had these powers back in the original days.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is as weird as television gets. Or not quite. We're not at episode 8 yet.
Well, the thing is, I feel like there are some different genres he brings in of TV shows, which we might get to as we go along. However, I now completely realize that him originally selling the original, which it does have so many lovely soap opera elements, I think was largely, it's like, I want to do some weird shit. What might they buy off me though? If I say to speak of soap operas. I mean, he's definitely influenced by TV. I think he's a fan of different genres of TV and movies.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is very, very uncompromising David Lynch. Yeah.
Because you've got like, I'll precursor this with like, you've got some road movie kind of stuff, which I feel like
yeah,
in there. You've got some gangster kind of movies, of course, your classic FBI tales, and bits of the original soap opera, but certainly so far, very few and far in between.
Yeah, there's not a lot, and I think that was what sort of knocked everyone for six when this first aired. Was that it's just not what anybody expected at all. Like I think people were prepared for it to be weird and for it to delve into the supernatural side a bit more, and obviously Lynch has grown and evolved as a filmmaker in the time in between, so I think people were sort of ready for it to be more like his more recent stuff at the time, but I don't think anyone was quite ready for what they actually delivered with the return.
Well, something I'm going to get just say up front, although ironically it's from the end of the episodes, I just thought because it's a sort of like just a talking point we can get through quite quickly. First of all, the music was partly contributed by 9 Inch Nails. I know they contribute a song, but I'm sure I read it. I ran out of time to check this, but I'm sure they, Trent Reznor from 9 Inch Nails, I think it is, did some stuff on some of the episodes as well for the music and the sound.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. I mean, Trent Reznor does quite a bit, like soundtrack wise. Like I think he's done quite a few David Fincher films. So yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all.
And without check, I'm fairly sure, but please correct me if I'm wrong, anyone who's watching. And yeah, while we're on the subject of music, at the end of each episode, or certainly most of them, you have a little musical number, and sometimes it's slightly before the credits, so you get something different in the credits. I love it. Again, it seems like a callback to those old TV shows where you'd have like just a band which would play a song in the middle of the episodes because they basically got a guest star that week.
Yeah, it is a bit like that. And it's the music at the end of the episodes almost becomes something that's a little bit comforting and gives a little bit of structure to a work that otherwise is very, I would say, unstructured. Like, I don't necessarily mean that as a criticism,
Yeah.
but like rewatching it, and most of these episodes I've now watched twice relatively recently. So I got ahead when we were doing the rewatch and watched the whole thing, and then I've gone back and rewatched the ones. So we're covering 1 to 6 today, and I think it rewards repeat viewings, but in terms of like structure, particularly, a lot of the episodes of The Return just feel like a collection of scenes that there doesn't seem to be much of an internal structure to each episode, as in there's no sort of definitive beginning, middle, and end, I don't think, to most of them. And
Yeah.
that music at the end almost gives you a minute to sort of relax for a second and think, right, okay, that's an episode done. Let me start to digest that now while somebody's played some music.
And I definitely feel like it's weird because I get offended on behalf of the show that the Paramount Plus keeps on going. It's like, we're going to skip to the next episode. No, let the song.
Yeah, I
Like,
don't like
it
that.
feels like it's part of the piece. Like, you can't.
Yeah,
I know it's
it
not
definitely
connecting to the
is.
events, but it's meant to be experienced as part. It feels like a cheat to do that. Like, I get if you've got the same credits every week, that's different. But this is
Yeah,
particular.
yeah, exactly. And you've got to scramble for the remote to go, no, watch credits.
Exactly. And I also do like the fact, we'll get into it in a minute, but I like the fact they've used these kind of scenes at the end where they're focusing quite a bit in the first few episodes. They focus on quite a lot of new plot. So it's a nice way of kind of also getting in the legacy characters in little cameos before we hopefully see more of them as we go forward.
Bringing it back to the Roadhouse at the end of most episodes, at least, brings you back to Twin Peaks, even if it's only briefly in some episodes. Yeah, and that obviously we'll get into it in future weeks, but we do get more of Twin Peaks as the place as we go along. But certainly in these opening episodes, there's not a huge amount.
Yeah, it's so brave. So what we're going to do is I've got a little bit from the first episode, and then we're going to go into more general themes. So
okay, cool.
we go straight in on re-showing the Lodge version of Laura saying "See you in 25 years." Great setup. Like, I think was it something like 22 years? It was a bit under, but almost on the nail.
Yeah, I think when they announced it, it was exactly 25 years since the first episode. Something. It was very,
so
very
overshot
close.
slightly. Yeah,
I think so.
Oh, and one other thing which I mentioned to you, which I find hilarious, is because all the younger cast, obviously this is Laura from a flashback, but we do see Laura and many of the other cast members now, and it's all the ones which were at school in the first one, and it's meant to be and it is 25, like we'll just say it's 25 years later, because more or less, and because they cast them as 18-year-olds older, they're meant to be like basically about my age, about mid-40s, like early to mid-40s. We'll give them, and they all look as they are, mid to late 50s in some cases. It's like you get the feeling some of them were closer to the age than others, but it's like it's just very noticeable that.
Yeah, I'd never quite clocked that, but yeah, you're right. This subtly sort of aged the characters up a little bit, rather than going, right, you've got to act 10 years younger again or what have you. But yeah, now it's one of them, once you point it out, yeah, it's very noticeable.
And you've got the opening credits, which I think are noteworthy. I like the fact that you still open. It's sort of like it's the shadowy picture of the picture of Laura, which is used throughout, going over the credits. So it's like it's kind of a suggestion that's like, okay, this is your starting point. We're going to come back to this, but this is almost like a specter in the show, not like the main theme anymore. That you don't get the Twin Peaks population sign and any of the stuff going in. You just go
No,
straight to
very
the
little.
waterfalls and the bigger. It sort of feels like as we're going for a bigger story and bigger themes in this, we're going for a bigger kind of credit. So the credits which we do see, I believe, are of the falls in Twin Peaks. So it's still setting it there, but it kind of gives this impression of larger to me. And then you go into the lodge imagery with the floor and the curtains. So it kind of brings that more central as well.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it's going for the bigger themes this time round and expanding the world outwards. Also, in a bit of a concession to modern TV, the credits are a lot shorter in the return than they were in the original. But that's just how modern TV goes, isn't it? You get much shorter. Like, you know, as you well know, we watch a lot of Star Trek, and the 90s Star Trek shows had what would be very, very long intros by today's standards.
Yeah, and I just love it. It's the same like tune, but because of the imagery, and maybe it also actually it's a good point. Maybe with the shorter tune, it seems like it's kind of colder and more foreboding somehow than the original, which I really like. It gives you instantly a different feel. So then when we go to Coop in the lodge, gets a briefing from the giant, all in black and white, listen to sounds from the coming out of gramophone. Not sure what it is. Sounds like some sort of old rotary dialing, maybe. But and I've just done this for this scene because, like, after this, the amount of info, because we're used to like maybe one or two clues, maybe every few episodes from the lodge. This one is like clue. It's like, so I've made a list of the ones from the first one. So this the dialogue. Giant, this is our house now. Coop, it is. Giant, this cannot be said aloud now. Giant, remember 4:30, Richard and Linda, two birds with one stone. Coop, I understand, because apparently.
Coop understands.
Well, I love that he understands, and then as we're going to go into, he completely loses his memory. So it's like, well, he understands, but he's not going to when he needs it. But fine. Giant, you are far away. Coop then disappears from the giant in this kind of like very old-fashioned sort of effect, which I really liked. Just bonkers from the outside. So
you're saying giant there, but I think you'll find he's credited in the credits as a series of question marks.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So
I do think it's the same character, but he's going to be given a new name by the end of the return.
Got ya. May as well get into some of the other denizens of the lodge. So, and again, like even that, we get loads more kind of cameo ones, I guess. But the main ones which I've listed here are the progression of the hand. So you said it was because the person who played the little person, the original, wanted too much money.
Yeah, again, as so often seems to be the case with behind the scenes Twin Peaks stuff, the full story is not known. But one of the rumors is that he was approached to reprise the role. He wanted too much money, so they wrote him out, and then he made allegations against David Lynch's working practices. So I think that put the final nail in the coffin of whether he would possibly return or not. But again, all of this was just sort of tittle-tattle at the time. I have no idea the real reason. But regardless, that because there's a lot of characters where sadly the actors have passed away in between the original show and the revival, and so some of them
that happened because little people sometimes have reduced lifespans, not always, but yeah, when I didn't see him, I was worried. I'm glad.
But no, this is a rare case that it's a different reason that he doesn't appear, and so we get the evolution of the arm.
You get the evolution of the arm. You get the one-armed man seems to kind of basically stand in for a lot of the stuff that the little person did in the original show. But it's really, I kind of love it. And the evolution of the arm. So you've got, it's basically some branches with some lights around it, and you've got a little brain at the top.
Yep.
for one of a better heart, brain, some organ anyway.
I'd go with brain, yeah.
We'll go with brain. And I just loved it because it looked very kind of old school sci-fi, kind of retro look. Maybe apart from the brain, maybe looked a bit more realistic, but the rest of it just looked like one of those classic aliens. And you came up with a really good idea about this, which relates to the log lady.
Yeah, my theory is that whatever the evolution of the arm evolves into, which I'm assuming is a tree, but see, that's just me assuming that a little tree goes into a big tree, but in a universe where a little man turns into a small tree, who knows? But assuming that this tree gets bigger, my theory is that somehow the log that the log lady carries is an offcut of that tree, and that's why the log, if we believe the log lady, knows things, because it would have a connection to whatever these beings are called.
And I'm going to throw something here at this stage as well, because I found it kind of interesting that where it's the evolution of the arm, and the arm in the original, it seemed to me like it was all kind of, again, it's not like they're kind of being very straightforward with their clues. However, they seem to be directing action a lot more. So like, they're choosing that doppelganger Coop is going to come back, and that our Coop's going to go out. We will go into this more in a bit, but it's kind of like it felt to me somehow with this promotion or this kind of evolution, it's directing things more. And like, you see the world of the lodge being a lot bigger as well. You see more kind of facets.
Yeah, we definitely get more of that in this one, particularly in, I think it's episode 3, where you've got Coops running around in various different parts of it. But yeah, there also seems to be, and this is only sort of upon third watching that I picked up on any of this, but I think the artist formerly known as the Giant says something about it being in their house, and so I got the impression that there's some force or being that is potentially a threat to them, and I also think that that's whatever's chasing Coop in episode 3 through the various layers of it and everything. And as we go along in later episodes, I do have a bit of an idea what this thing might be, but we're probably a bit early in the show's run to delve into that at the moment, and it's probably wrong.
Okay, so we're going to go through. I've got a few areas. Like again, it's like the original series, but like more so. You can't really just do a linear through that, especially not this one.
No.
You just have to kind of go through themes really, and it should all make sense by the time we're done. I mean, like, please watch the episode. If you're trying to understand it from this, my God, you're a braver person than me.
You need to. This is just people trying to pick through it. If you've not seen it, this will mean nothing.
Well, let's start with the first of our kind of new kind of character plot points. So you've got this mysterious box. So it seems to be this kind of like what they described as a kind of loft area in in American buildings. They've kind of got these huge like loft apartments sometimes, and it seems like one of those has been used for commercial purposes. Old school building. You've got kind of guards on there. You've got a guy who's watching these monitors, and which are all monitoring this one box, and the box goes out from the building, like, so it's kind of a huge glass box over a drop, just to give you kind of like saying. And this guy, I love, just like they've got this woman who comes with coffee and is kind of curious as what he's up to. Obviously, kind of they've got a little bit of a thing going on, and she wants to come in, but he doesn't allow her because he's kind of strict to his job there. And then one day, the kind of like the stuff all disappeared, and she comes in. Like anything so far before we get into the meat of what happens here?
Yeah, I really like all this. I like
Mm.
how sort of mysterious this is, and it implies, or it immediately sort of opens up the possibility that whatever the mystery was in the original Twin Peaks, it's not confined to that town. Like the
Yeah, because we're in
existence
New
of
York.
the lodge or of these beings or whatever is known to the wider world to some degree. So I really like that idea that it just opens it all up from the beginning.
Yeah, actually, that's something I've forgotten. I was thinking when I was watching it. It's like I do wonder if like we're also seeing the evolution of the arm, the evolution of the lodge, and maybe the evolution of their power. So maybe at one stage it was confined to Twin Peaks, and then through Evil Coop, that's maybe how it's helped spread.
Possibly, yeah.
It's interesting. So anyway, so eventually when like we get the impression very clearly that this is always staff, there's always security, there's always someone monitoring out back, which we never see. And one day the guy comes out, the woman's there with his coffee, which is she's brought him, and no one's there to stop them. So they go through for her to have a quick peek at the box. They're having their coffee, and one thing leads to another, and the two start getting it on. And then suddenly there's this huge kind of like explosive power that comes from the box and wipes them out, basically, just eviscerates them. Again, this is what, like, we got every now and again with the original series, but I feel like we've got a lot more kind of like just visceral kind of, whether it's violence, whether it's kind of sex, whether it's anything, it all just, we see it all.
Yeah, I mean, this was done on the Showtime network, so it was, yeah, pretty much you can do whatever you want. And yeah, so as we've said, it's not only sort of David Lynch off the leash in terms of what he can do creatively and in terms of storytelling, but also it's, yeah, you don't have to shy away from the violence or the sex or the drugs or whatever. And all them elements were there in the original, but they were alluded to rather than graphically shown. But yeah, we're past that point now.
Oh yeah. So we will return to the box as it becomes relevant as we go forward. I sort of like, again, there's no particular order, but I want to go for Matthew Lillard next. Of Scream fame, amongst other things. Just wonderful to see him in here. I know it sounds funny because it's not like he hasn't worked over the years, but it felt like suddenly seeing him all growed up.
Yeah, it did, and he's got a very distinctive look to him, and he looks like he belongs in the Twin Peaks universe, and it makes a character that might not have been as memorable stand out a little bit more. It's not stunt casting because the amount of names that show up in this, but yeah, it gives that character a bit more. It piques your interest a little bit more, I think, having someone who's recognizable like that in there. And yeah, that's very much a focus of particularly the first episode, isn't it? His sort of storyline.
I thought it was more second episode. I know it's quite at the
Yeah, it
beginning,
sort
so
of
I
comes
might
in
have
about halfway through the first episode. We sort of get
right.
introduced to him, and then yeah, in the second one, and like this is also what I was saying about like structure, in that we don't really come back to this character until about episode 13 or something. After this, it demands that you have been paying attention and ideally have taken notes, because yeah.
I mean it's just insane. I mean, yeah, because I was trying to do that. I was trying to take notes at least after the episode, but it was like, if you're really going to watch this, you can't be making notes as well. And sometimes, like, obviously, if I'm sat on my computer, that's fine. But if I'm just watching it, I want to kind of watch and enjoy it. And I started making notes. And it was just, every moment I was noting. You have to, I think, the way we're doing it, every 6 episodes, if you just look back and say, right, what threads can I pick up? I think that's the only way to talk about this.
Yeah,
but
that's definitely a good way of doing it. Yeah.
Well, if Matthew Lillard piqued your interest, maybe I could twin peak your interest with me. See what I did? With the fact that it was also the setup of the police come to his door, they arrest him, some murders which he's got no memory of. Sounds sort of familiar to something to me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I suppose there's a link there. Though it's a very different sort of murder this time. It's like somebody's been shot in the head in a. It's not a hotel room, is it? It's like an apartment complex, and yeah, it seems to be embracing the. I mean, when I say it, I mean the show is embracing the crime side of it. I know we did that in the original, and like we had the drugs coming from One-Eyed Jacks and everything, but it was always a little sanitized, really. Especially the villains were very sort of boo hissed, like we are the Renault brothers. You know, it was all a bit heightened, whereas this feels a bit more grounded.
yeah.
The way it's shown.
Yeah, I did think we're definitely leaning into more the gritty side of it than, as I say, the kind of soap opera side. I saw as they went on, the more kind of Twin Peaks you got in, the more kind of that kind of soap side of it, which they always had in that, kind of creeps in as well, which is really kind of fun to do. So it's kind of nice that they kind of have their cake and eat it too. So Matthew Lillard, yeah, as I say, he seems to have no memory of what's happened, but when he starts talking about it, he's going, but I didn't, did I? But I did have a dream about this happening, which again just sounds very much Bob's possessed you kind of territory. So I don't know if it's Bob or if it's another agent of the lodge, but that's where my mind is so far. And I know you know because you watched it recently, but I can't remember. So I'm very much kind of interested in that one. I also love the fact that it turns out his wife's having an affair, he's having an affair, and so she just is quite happy to stitch him up and leave him there in jail. She's even having it off with his lawyer.
That's quite good fun.
Yeah, it's great.
And you get the bit where she says to the lawyer, she's like, he knows. And you're like, oh, is this about the conspiracy? And it's like, or is she talking about he knows about whatever the mystery is? But it's like, no, he just knows that they're shagging. So it's like, that's that.
It's great. So next bit I've got is and I will go into the more featured people who are reoccurring, but I'm just going to go for the legacy cast cameos so far. So we got Bobby the cop. I thought the way they introduced him, instantly more interesting than he's ever been.
Yeah,
the
definitely.
fact he's cop gives him something different to do. He looks the part playing the cop, whereas like as the kid, he was always just a bit, I don't know, he's just annoying. And the fact that they get him to go in and see the picture of Laura amongst the other things they dug up. And his reaction, I just thought it was brilliant. It was just lovely. It just felt like us calling back the original in that moment. It was just wonderful.
And it's great that obviously, we've not touched base with this character in 25 years, but they could very easily have just made him a lifelong criminal who never got his life together. And even though Bobby did some despicable things back in the original show, and yes, he didn't look it, but he was still a kid, to all intents and purposes. And it's nice that it implies that in the time we've not seen him, he has got his act together. And perhaps that's informed by, so we find out that Major Briggs died shortly after the series finished.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the actor didn't, though the actor had passed away by the time we got there. But I wonder if the implication is, when his dad died, that's when it sort of hit home and he realised he had to sort things out.
Because they do put that, again, we'll get into it a bit more, but they do put that as just after. So basically, Evil Coop, or Coop as they think, left town, and it was the day after, he got a visit, from Coop. And then the general died the next day in a fire at the army base, is it?
Which sounds very suspicious, if you ask me. But
it does indeed. But just, I love the fact they featured Donna Davis so much in this. Just lovely. But it doesn't feel exploitative at all. It just feels like the right amount without crossing that line
And I
too much.
assume that anything like that's been done with the approval of the relevant families and estates, and because I'm pretty sure we'd have heard by now if it hadn't been. So
I would assume so. And for me, I kind of like I don't begrudge them doing it like this. And this is kind of like him. He's featured here and there amongst it. Like there's one bit where he's a floating head. I don't know why I said was featured. Like, may as well just go through it now. He's kind of a floating head, and you get I think a visage of him popping up at one stage so far. But I know there's more coming up as well. It just seems the right amount that you're including him without. I think once you get to the stage of putting a performance into it in any way, if they hadn't signed up, which I know is a big debate now with AI and everything, I think that's not okay. But this just felt perfect. So we got Shelley next. She's kind of been here or there. I like. In fact, we can do her and James in the same breath because she basically goes over to someone asked about him. He goes, James has always been cool. I mean, well, not so much, but okay.
Yeah, that's
an accident with his bike.
I feel like that's David Lynch going, look, James was meant to be cool. He was. He was supposed to be. But yeah.
He looks cooler now. Actually, I mean, have him as the strong silent type, and like the now he doesn't look like a kid. So, like he's still got a bit of his baby face look, but he just looks more like a man now. I feel like he looks cooler instantly than he did when he was a kid.
And yeah, and I what the sort of implication with Shelley is that her daughter has more or less become young her. Like she's got a husband who's really bad. You know, he's not good for her, and it's like almost like this cycle of not of abuse, but like just a cycle of sadness, I suppose. That Shelley was always caught in this thing with Leo, and then with Bobby, and now her daughter's going through that as well. And it's, you know, Bobby's taken the wayward person that he was and become a better person, and Shelley's not managed to prevent her daughter from falling into that trap, which I think there's something very, very sad about that.
Yeah. And there was the lovely line where Norma says, which we'll also bring in here because again it just all fits nicely. She says something along the lines of like, oh, you know, I know the feeling with that, you know, like she basically refers to, it feels like she's referring to Shelley as if she's a daughter, which kind of felt very sweet, unless, I thought it was really nice. It's kind of just, it cements something which was always suggested really, that she was like her adopted mum. I really like that. Oh yeah, and you've also got this new lady working the diner whose name I haven't recorded. German, is it? Is that a German accent she's doing?
Something like that, yeah. I think though she's actually in the original. She's in the pilot and the very last episode. And in both the pilot and the last episodes, you have people saying like, "Oh, you're back from your holiday," or something like that. So it's implied that she always works there, but she's just been on holiday for a couple of weeks.
Nice.
But I've not double checked, but I've a strong feeling that's the same actress.
I'll take your word for it. No, it's great. I love that. And also this very quirky character who I assume we're going to see more of, who comes in and she's going like, "Now I'm obsessed with your pie, so I had to have a pie, but I'm doubly obsessed today because I had two lovely. I don't know where it's leading, but classic Peaks, quirky little character. You know, you're gonna just enjoy. Just fun. So I think that's them kind of broadly kind of covered. Jean-Michel Renaud briefly kind of pops up. I saw in the credits, but I didn't actually see where he was in the episode, if I'm honest.
No, I don't think I did either. Maybe one of the. I don't think that's the Renault that we've already had. I think maybe is that meant to be their.
They had a picture of the guys from the original series who. So he's the one who's actually. Well, in fact, he's in the orgy scene, and he's kind of. Yeah. Apparently, he was in the. He's probably in the bar scene somewhere. Anyway.
No, I have a feeling it must be meant to be their child or something, because he dies, that character. That's the one that Leland kills, isn't it? Oh, I don't know. I get my Renaults mixed up. I do
Yeah, me
apologize.
too. Anyway, oh, Dr. Jacoby's there and he's selling
Yep.
shovels now. I love it. To begin with, I think he's coming into it more as we got to the 6th episode. So to begin with, you just see him painting these shovels endlessly, which is just good fun.
Yeah, and we find out he seems to be one of these like crackpot YouTubers who's talking about and then that leads us to see Nadine, because she seems to be a fan.
Yeah, so I love that. That's kind of set up, and I feel like we're going to get payoff for that. Oh, we've got Ben and Jerry, of course. Ben seems definitely still on the path to kind of like he certainly sounds like he's trying to walk the good path. He talks a bit about like something in someone's room. Is it beaver or something?
Yeah, skunk. So you're still getting crazy stuff going on at the hotel.
And Jerry's just a stoner now, but just established it. Like it was heavily suggested, but
yeah, I think he's just growing weed now because it would be legal in Washington State, I believe.
I think this was about when it was being legalized. So, some states. So, yeah, probably just legalized there. So, yeah, that's just, I don't know. I find him just very much fun. Like they just stopped kind of trying to justify any plot points for what he's doing. He's just getting stoned and just pissing off his brother by just.
Can you imagine what he's like when he gets the munchies, like with how happy he was about them cheese sandwiches, and that was when he wasn't doing weed. But yeah, I feel like we deserve a scene of that. But
I've now just got a few kind of guest casts from just new people. So I haven't put him down, but it's Ethan Suplee from My Name is Earl and some of the Kevin Smith movies as well. He pops up in the casino, very kind of fun, just nice to see him really. He just lost a load of weight at the time, so he's kind of really cutting everything, which is kind of I think it's after he lost the weight before he put on loads of muscle, which he's just built like anything now, but looking great. Jane Addams, known for the film Happiness Month, other things. Ashley Judd, Jennifer Jason Lee, which is lovely to see her. Patrick Fischler, which I didn't know the name of, but he's the guy who's the kind of he's running the business where the kid goes like, "Are you sure we want to be doing like? How do you work for a guy like that?" Which was starting to learn about, but that's the guy who pops up and everything. Oh, a couple which I did want to talk about. Michael Cera, which he plays Andy and Lucy, who we're going to get to's kid. And obviously the bane of Hawk's existence, you can tell. It's like the guy just monologues for like 10 minutes and Hawk just looks just like, yeah, okay, more of this shit, fucking hell. It's like if he wasn't their kid.
And we find out that he was born on the same day as Marlon Brando, and he's dressed like Rebel Without a Cause sort of thing, but he's talking like the Godfather.
Isn't it the Wild ones?
The Wild, sorry, yes. And this to me feels like one of the most in-jokey, self-indulgent things. Like it's literally got no bearing on anything. It's just, Michael Cera, you come in and do a Marlon Brando impression for 10 minutes, it'll be fine. And fair enough if that's what you want to do. But out of all the cameos, if you like, this one feels like the most just let's just have a laugh. And
I completely forgot he was in it, and I was fairly sure he doesn't appear again, like much, if at all.
I don't think he does.
It was just so much fun. I don't even object. It's like you'd think.
No, don't object to it.
Everything that's going on, the multiple plot points, the fact that it's taken so long. So like we haven't even discussed this. Like the fact that when it starts, you're expecting it's like, oh, let's see what's happening with Coop. This is going to be fun, and it's like you don't. You get so long for him to come out into the world, let alone anything else. We will get to it.
Yeah.
And they're doing again a good 5 minutes on Michael Cera just for fun.
That's it. Like like on one level, there's not giving the audience exactly what they expect, which is fair enough. An artist is not beholden to the audience to do exactly what they want. But then, like you say, there's things like this where it almost feels like the audience is being trolled. Like, oh, you want more scenes set back in the original Twin Peaks? Okay, I'll give you that, but it's going to be Michael Cera pretending to be Marlon Brando for 10 minutes. Like, it's peculiar, and it's one of them where I think you've just got to give yourself over to it and just go, I'm going on this ride with David Lynch and Mark Frost, and it may not be the ride I thought I was going on, but at least it's going to be interesting.
And trust me, I haven't forgotten. Like, we're getting onto the Coops and the rest of it in just a moment. But first, I want to go for the new Sheriff Truman, Lucy, Andy, Hawk, and the Log Lady. I think they fit nicely. Well, obviously, in their scenes. I love that everyone just looks great. The Log Lady, obviously, you can tell she's ill during this, but it seems it was actually kind of funny for me because, like, I'm just in the process at the moment of sorting out, like, I'm living with my mum to try and help her out with stuff, and the process of sorting out a house, and just made me think about, like, this sort of is how it goes sometimes. Like, you've got someone who's an active member of the town, and they're suddenly just on the phone to people, and they don't leave their house, but they go, it's like, oh, drop them by. I've made some coffee and cake for you.
Yeah.
It's like, it really was weird timing for me that it's like, oh shit, yeah, that's what happened. Like, it never, like, obviously it is, but it's like, it made me think of it, particularly this time, the fact that this is happening just at a certain time in my life. I don't know.
Yeah, and there's a lot of, like, warmth in the performance of Hawk when he's talking to her. It's clear that they've fostered something of a relationship. I don't mean a romantic relationship, but over the years, she's obviously become someone that Hawk talks to, and that goes both ways and everything. And these characters are definitely the ones who, when we go back to Twin Peaks, they're the only one really who've got a story. Like Ben Horn doesn't really, Dr. Jacoby doesn't. They're there and they're doing things, but they haven't really got a story to tell. Whereas the sheriff's department does, and I like it whenever we go back to them and delve back into the Laura Palmer side of it, and I think that's my favorite scene out of these first 6 episodes, is the one where they're trying to work out what's missing, and Lucy says, oh, it's the chocolate bunnies, I ate one of the chocolate bunnies, and Hawk sort of at first goes, it's not to do with the bunnies, and then he goes, is it to do with the bunnies? No, it's not to do with the bunnies. And that's just that's old school Twin Peaks. That's really good fun.
And Lucy says, it's like, it was the one time I did it. I never ate evidence ever again. And the other one, along the same lines, the other wonderfully quirky bit is that Lucy's mind is blown by cell phones.
Yes.
As they call it in America. It's like, they've got, so the new Sheriff Truman, who's the brother of Sheriff Truman, who's kind of on the phone, but the actor died, didn't he, the original Truman?
No, he was just retired, just didn't want to do it.
There you go. So he's on the phone to him, and like he walks in while he's on the phone to her. It's like, goes, look, I'm sorry to do this, Lucy, but I am coming in. He walks in and she just faints. And it's Andy's line, which is like, you are excellent in your job in every single regard, except for this one. I don't know why cell phones confuse you so much. It's just, he was in the forest and then he was here. And it's just brilliant. And Lucy, so Lucy and Andy pretty much look the same. Andy's got a bit of a pot belly, but he wears it very well. I think they look great. As you say, Hawk's just really cool, and I love the fact that he feels like a few people kind of like I was talking to you before we came on, that there's someone who helps Mum out with handyman stuff, and I know he checks in on her every now and again. Felt very much that kind of relationship, which is really lovely. And the spoilers, because we will get to this later, but in the real world, the woman who played the log lady was dying. And as I say, it'll be particularly impactful as we go forward. But the stuff that she agreed to do, which I feel like it must be some sort of special kind of relationship between her and Lynch for him to ask this and her to say yes to feature. Well, we may as well say like to feature her dying as a plot point and exploring what it's like at the end of your life. I thought was amazing. And God bless this woman. Sorry, I didn't record her actual name, but it's like God bless this woman for doing that. It's just and God in the general term, not specifically. But yeah, it just to do that just felt so brave and such a great thing for an actor as well. It must have been such a thing to process it as you're processing it in your real life.
Yeah, definitely. It adds a poignance to it, knowing that the actress was going through that as well. You know, it does add a gravity to her scenes. So yeah, it's a powerful. The performance is more powerful than perhaps the role as written justifies because of the extra textual things that were going on.
Yeah. But now we get on to let's get on to the meat of it now. Oh yeah, and sorry, Hawk finds because of the clue given to him by the log lady that relates to his heritage. Yeah, like you say, they go through all sorts of like files. Oh, and there's a conversation about it's like, but if something's not here, how do we know it's not here to not find it? Or are we looking at stuff that is here that it's great? Just classic Andy. But they go through all this stuff and he goes to the loo and he sees this little symbol of an Indian is on the logo. I think it's
well, he drops a coin that's got a Native American on it, and then he sees on the logo that's his tribe. So yeah, because the log lady says it's to do with your heritage.
Oh, and there's a dickhead sheriff, which I think we're going to find out more about.
Yes, I think we're going to see more. Yes. And it's fun as well that you've got one room where it's Andy and Lucy and Hawk, and they're working it out by getting everything out on the table, and then there is like a quick cutaway scene to it's actually been totally modernized, and there's this really expensive room, and they've got all the modern policing things, but we're not interested in that. So let's stick with the characters we are interested in. But yeah, it's just fun.
Yeah, they go to that room a few times, and it's like, just this just for a characterful moment with the ancillary characters. We'll get to the real meat of it when they're going through paper-based files.
The world's moved on around these characters, but we, the audience, don't want to see that. We want to see them as they were, kind of thing. It's fun.
Nice way of putting it. So yeah, as I say, and they find the file in there, which is from the general, like his file.
Yeah, it's his file, and they find what looks like perhaps missing pages from Laura Palmer's diary, which must have been the biggest bloody diary the world's ever seen, because 25 years later we're still finding pages that were taken from it. But yes.
Hell, and if there's hope for the pages of Laura Palmer's diary this many years later, we still might find the 90-odd episodes of Doctor Who that we're still looking for. So the hope's out there. That's all I'm saying. They come up every now and again. So let's go for Evil Coop, and then we'll go on to the Good Coop.
Yes.
And the other FBI agents. So we've got, he's a snakeskin gangster and will not return to the lodge quietly is the, for some reason, tagline I've added for him.
Yeah, pretty much. And there's this implication that Bad Coop has kind of built a criminal empire over the years. Like, he seems to, in the episodes that we're seeing with him here, he seems to be dealing with a lot of sort of low-life thugs and that sort of side of it. But I've always taken the implication that glass box belongs to him, and that, you know, he's also got his fingers in a lot of more affluent areas of crime, and he seems to have links to the people in Las Vegas, and so I feel like somehow he's built this up over the years. And you've got the fact that his hair's grown long now, and it's like, is that a bit of a comment? Is that Bob's influence, that he's on some level
Yeah,
starting to look more like Bob by growing his hair out? It's
because he looks in the mirror and he goes, "Ah, you're still with me about Bob."
yes, yeah. And I mean, it's a great performance by Kyle MacLachlan. Is to say he played Coop, who was just just the epitome of goodness. And then he's just playing this horrible character. Like, he's almost repulsive just to look at him. And yeah, he's a very unseemly character, in his actions as well. But yeah, it's just a great performance, and he seems to be looking for something. Is about all we can at this stage ascribe as his motives.
And the only thing I've got to add to what you said really is he's sleeping with every woman going, by the looks of it.
Yes,
And,
yeah, he's very
and
sleazy as well.
they have a tendency to wind up dead afterwards, as does everyone. He basically kills anyone he works with.
Yeah, that seems to be his thing.
So I think that kind of. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, it seems he's looking for coordinates, isn't he? And he doesn't get a call. Because everyone, basically, if you played by Kyle MacLachlan in this show, someone's trying to kill you. Because there looks to be people are trying to kill Bad Cooper. And that seems to have been set up by, it's set up by a character who identifies themselves as Philip Jeffries, which was David Bowie's character from the film. But Bad Cooper seems to think it's not actually Philip Jeffries. So I have a theory on who this is. I think it's the evolution of the arm, because when the person on the phone is talking to Bad Coop, they say, "You're coming back soon, and I'll be with Bob again." So I think this is the evolution of the arms. We know that the arm originally was what Mike cut off, that had his killer tattoo. And him and Bob used to kill people together, and then he cut off the arm so he wouldn't kill people anymore. So it would make sense to me that the arm still wants to hang out with Bob. And so would want Bad Coop to get brought back into the lodge so that the spirit of Bob would be back in the lodge. So that's my working theory.
It's interesting because I'm always like so confused by the arm, because like you said, like that completely makes sense what you said, but kind of he always seems to be not out and out helping, but like certainly guiding Coop and not against Coop in the way that some other lodge dwellers and some other plot points. It's almost like when the arm was removed from Bob, it went rogue by influencing towards good. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think the arm doesn't seem as evil as Bob, but maybe it still wants him hanging around again. I mean, there is another very dominant theory in fandom as to who it is, but I think again we're too early probably in the return to really talk about that, so maybe we'll come back to that.
We'll put a pin that. And also sorry, I was looking at the dates while I was talking to you. It was as I thought, it was a year before that Barry passed away as well, so it is possible they might have had him if he was well enough due to come in for filming, because it would have been about the time when he passed away.
Yeah, I think it was intended that he would come back in. And from what I recall, David Bowie, his illness was not widely known. I think he kept it quite... So it wouldn't surprise me if David Lynch didn't know that it was possible that he wouldn't be available. So,
I feel
so
like
yeah,
they would have
quite
told
possibly.
one out there character to another about it. I feel like he would have told. I don't know why. No basis for this.
Maybe.
I just think the characters that they both are, they would love the exploration of, again, like we were saying with the
Yeah,
Lookout, the
maybe you
exploration
imagine
of
them
death
having
so
a chat.
much. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think they would love that conversation. And just to tie it in very nicely, Bo's last video, they released it just after his death, and he recorded it knowing he was dying, and it's all about death. It's
Yeah.
Lazarus. And if you
Yes.
get,
Yeah,
you
I
know, Black
remember.
Spurs, the album, yeah, haunting video, but just so good. And again, the bravery of
Yeah.
communicating your death through art is just beautiful, and just amazing. So we'll go on to the main coup, which is, I've got divided into sections. Then we're going to go into the other EPI agents.
Right.
So first of all, you've got his escape from the lodge. So he gets told he's going out, and there's kind of lots of, they seem to go through kind of lots of talking to him and preparing him to go.
Yeah.
But when he actually goes to go, and I'm going to raise this now as it relates to later on, I think we might see something which is associated with the end of the series. So there's the bit where he's about to leave, and you see sort of like, it feels like the lodge is kind of like coming apart almost. It kind of seems to spiral out. You follow the kind of zigzag flooring, and then
Yeah.
you see
Yeah.
the horse, which always related back to Laura, and her mum, I believe, saw the horse as
Laura's
well.
mum it related to, yeah.
Was it only Laura's mum, not her?
It was Laura's mum saw it before Maddie died.
Right. Was it not featured at all before that, or was it the first time?
That was the first time we saw it. I think it's in Firewalk with Me as well.
So I get the feeling like this horse, no matter what else it represents, relates back to Laura. And there is a bit where later on, Coop changes events, and I think that's, this moment relates to that. But
Right.
we can get back there when we get there.
Yeah, when we get there. But yeah, that's a good one to keep an eye on. Yeah.
So we've got now, yeah. So basically, Coop goes on a journey through the lodge. He kind of looks in the different rooms. You get that thing of going back into a room and suddenly there's no one there. Kind of lovely,
Yeah.
you know, really lovely callbacks. Oh, and the one-armed guy has the line which also relates to my theory. He copies the line which the little person said in the original series of like, "Is this future or past?" And I think that's because it is both future and future to the episode, past relates to past events. So then we go into some new rooms which we haven't seen before, and things go quite wacky. First of all, you've got so many kind of bits where someone's doing the backward talk, so they've learned the whole script backwards. And I noticed there's also longer pauses before and after they speak now, which creates an even more eerie feel. I like it.
Yeah,
Just seems
you
like
get them like blinking and stuff, and yeah, it's just weird when it's backwards.
Yeah, but yeah, and Coop through most of it, although there seems to be individual, almost like lines which he delivers where it sounds like it's fucking weird. They really did want to fuck with us this time.
Oh yeah,
but it just, the level of difficulty of filming it, and like he goes into this room where it's kind of like it's skipping. It seemed like, and you've got this lady whose eyes are bandaged over.
the sort of you can't see her eyes. It's like they're stitched over or something, and yeah, she seems to be trying to help him because it's like something's chasing him. Like you can hear it banging on the doors. I think that's the thing that was in the box that killed the young couple. I think that's the thing the giant is talking about, saying it's here, and that is following Coop because it appears in the box after he does.
Oh, I thought the suggestion was because, well, let's quickly get to there and then we'll continue. So basically, they go outside. He's on the top, and he's kind of got to open this pressure valve.
Yeah, and then she falls.
Yeah, she falls. He opens the valve, goes back inside, and suddenly it's moving forwards. Am I even remembering this correctly?
Yeah, he goes back in and it's less sort of chaotic, and that's when he decides to go down the electric socket,
That's it. Of
which
course he does.
electric seems to be a means of traveling between the lodge and the real world. That seems to be a new element that's been introduced.
And we see a lot of stuff with the electric pipes. And something I forgot earlier from Matthew Lillard, when it kind of pans from his prison cell to the cell next door, there's a sort of ghost who looks like it works for the electric company or something, who just fades out.
Yeah, there's the I forget the name of those characters. They do actually, they have a name, but I've forgotten what it is. So we'll come back to that anyway.
Okay, I wasn't sure if
yeah.
that related to the electric, but yeah. Then so Coop goes on this little odyssey where you do see him appearing in the box. I thought when he appeared in the box, I thought the suggestion was that was what caused the guys to die when he appeared. Is it separate?
No, I don't. Yeah, I think it's separate from that, because the way it shows them having the conversation.
Oh, and they're outside.
And they're outside, so I think Coop appeared. They all missed it. Like they all went on the break at exactly the wrong time, and then that thing appeared. So that's my theory on what's going on there.
And then, if they haven't fucked with us enough, Coop, we see now a new version, which is now, so the evil Coop vomits up some, I'm going to guess, Gormangosia in his car when Coop returns back to our world.
Mm-hmm.
You get there's a new version of him, which seems to be this guy called Dougie, who we're suddenly introduced to, which looks like a used car salesman version of Coop.
Yeah.
He's there with his family, his wife and kid, Sonny Jim. He suddenly just basically dies that instant.
Yeah.
Coop comes out of the electric socket and takes his place back next to this little pile of, looks like vomit or goes up, which has replaced Dougie. Again, Dougie from nowhere. Just love it. And then,
well, I think Bad Coop made Dougie.
We do establish he was made because in the lodge, Dougie appears, talks to the guy, goes like, "Oh, you have been made," and he goes, "Oh, okay," and like he touches his hand, he starts deflating. He goes, "Oh, that doesn't look good," and he just deflates.
Yeah. And so I think the implication is that Bad Coop made him because he knew this time would come when they would try and draw him back into the lodge, and so he made Dougie basically so that they would take Dougie back into the lodge rather than him.
Right, because they're like you said before, like Bad Coop does say, "I'm not going back," basically. Everyone else seems to have very different plans, and they do. And the one-armed guy keeps on appearing to Coop at various times, saying things like "Don't die." Well, that's helpful. Remember, like I think he tells him to remember at one stage.
Yeah,
and he just
says like wake up,
to nudge him.
And he definitely seems to be trying to help him more directly than he had done before.
Because Coop gets woken up by his wife, played by, oh god, who is it? Plays his wife?
Naomi Watts.
Naomi Watts playing his wife. She basically gets him off the floor, and we find out he's got no memory, which is like, at that moment, like Lynch just knows. We're all going, it's like, oh, we're going to see Coop being Coop. He's going to unravel this mystery. We're going to have some pie and coffee action right here. No memory. He has to, even down to pissing and walking, he seems to have to be shown, and forgets instantly to walk out of lifts and move forward. They really are, they play it for all it's worth. Every moment where they can do a funny moment with him not knowing what he's doing, just they have great time with.
And they just have him repeating things, and
So it turns out Dougie is some sort of claims adjuster working insurance.
Yeah.
He's got this kind of very tacky suit, which like everyone comments on how kind of like he looks like he's lost weight and he's dyed his hair black and everything, because the other guy's kind of got big kind of shaggy hair. Yeah, so it's kind of a few kind of points here. So Coop then goes, I think the next bit's the casino, isn't it, with Coop?
Yeah, that's one of the first things he does, because he wakes up, he's not with his wife when he wakes up, he's with a sex worker, and she drops him off at the casino and says you can find your own way home from here. And yeah, that's when we'll presume it's Mike, but all you see is Mike, the one-armed man, all you see is like little flashes of the waiting room, and it hovers over the gambling machines to basically help him to make a load of money, basically.
Yeah, and like, yeah, I love the fact the light kind of guides him all throughout as well. Like, so there's different bits. So to begin with, yeah, it's here in the thing. Just keeps on winning money. You've got the woman from the tribute Tenacious D video playing the old woman there, which just fun to see her. But yeah, so yeah, she suddenly goes like, "Excuse me, Mr. Bingo, which one do I press next?" Because he sees one guy doing it. He goes like, it's not Bingo, whatever he shouts out.
Mr. Jackpots.
Oh, Mr. Jackpots, and he goes, "Ayo!" every time he does the thing. It's just very silly and very fun.
It is,
so yeah, Jim Belushi and the other kind of owner of the casino don't take very kindly
Robert
to that.
Nepper.
Yeah. So get him to leave, but they give him his money. Like, no one seems to question giving him his money either, which I just love. Which, of course, the casino.
Unusual for casinos, yeah.
Yeah, because you've got the casino guy who's there, and then it's Jim Belushi and another guy who come in, and they're basically the heavies who then kill the casino manager for paying out to him. Yeah, if someone wins that many jackpots, usually there's more questions and less money being handed to him.
Usually, yeah.
But instead they give him this, give him a limo back to his place, because he's kind of like, because he sees Ethan Suplee and he gives him that he lives on this road and a red door. So they managed to get him home.
Yeah,
meets his wife and the kid and everything, and it's all very confusing but very fun. I love the fact that Coop seems to see the kid, and like even without his memory, he kind of cries because he kind of sees how sad the child is and the situation.
Yeah, he seems very empathetic. Like there's clearly traits of the character in there, and like it again. Partially, it's just trolling the audience. Partially, it's giving us hints that the real Coop's in there. But they have moments like where he's offered a cup of coffee, and you think, "Oh, coffee! That's going to trigger his Coop memories," and he likes it, but it doesn't make him back into himself.
But still, the fact that he's obsessed with coffee, even without his memory, I love. It just he's downing it boiling hot.
Yes, but again, I feel like it's this thing of it is a bit of a two fingers up at the audience, like, oh, you think you're gonna get him back when he sees the coffee? No, not quite. And I think with the distance of the years since this came out, and now I know going into this series, like where it goes and what to expect, it doesn't bother me as much, but I do remember it being a very frustrating experience first time around, particularly when it was released on a weekly schedule, and you were like, is this the week I'm going to get my character that I love back? And nope. But yeah, but I think once you accept that and watch it again, it's a different experience.
Yeah, and I think there was also a kind of duality to when the Mike in the lodge, when he says like only one of you can survive, and I feel like there's almost a second meaning to that between him and Dougie, because he in effect takes on this mantle of Dougie while he's there. He even kind of like, they get some money from the casino. The wife, who's not taking any shit, pays off his like debts, which the real Dougie mounted up. Even though he's clearly having an affair, she kind of like sticks by him, like so. Yeah, all this stuff happening, but it's like, you know, that he's kind of like, they've got this stuff sorted. He's being nice to Sonny Jim. So he kind of like,
which is
has that
great that
moment
they
of
always
wisdom.
just call him Sonny Jim. Like
Yeah.
they give him the full. Yeah, that's fun.
And you've got all this stuff happening, and I feel like it is all building up to like, eventually, you know, Coop's going to get his memory back, and he isn't going to stay as Dougie. And it's like, I feel like one of you will survive also kind of hints at that in a way as well.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so it can apply to good Coop, bad Coop, but also to Coop and the concept of Dougie, if not the physical embodiment of Dougie, if you like. Yeah.
I did. I kind of love that. So yeah, you've had the casino bit. So then we kind of have Albert and Gordon are contacted in the FBI to they're looking. You've got a classic Lynch thing of just random things on the table. Like you've got picture swimsuit models, like a fucking vegetable. Like you've got all this random stuff on the table. It's like, and what we're looking at is all the clues we need to solve the case of blah 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 blah. And they go, anyway, we'll get back to that later. It's like, it's just some random shit just for fun. And I'm
yeah, it's quite fun having the Blue Rose task force, almost like, right, this is the X-Files now, but crazier.
Yeah, it's just lovely. So yeah, they get the call. It's kind of Coop's been discovered. So it's Albert, Gordon, and new agent Denise. No, sorry, new agent Denise is
Tammy.
Sorry, yeah. They get sent off on the trail, which is kind of lovely addition. I like the fact that they kind of, it feels like they would have a kind of younger agent with them to do the legwork, even though they're kind of the brains. Albert's just, Albert and Gordon just as fun as ever. Gordon gets to be
they are
sassy again. Albert's just deaf, which is fun, but they kind of play it at certain times, but not others. I love the fact that he can turn up his thing or to.
Yeah, it's got a bit better in the time that we've been away. Yeah.
So that's all great fun. So they find the wrong Coop in the end, though. So evil Coop's been arrested, and they see him in the jail. But they kind of they don't seem to spend long until they realize it probably isn't Coop. I feel like they spot it straight away.
Yeah, they spot it very quickly. And did you notice how they reversed his voice very, very briefly? Yes. Like he says, it's very, very nice to see you again, Gordon. But one of the verys, it's like the backwards talking.
Yeah. Again, like the difficulty of doing that, just like everything just is.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah, I did notice that. And yeah, it goes like, that's when he goes like, it goes, I think it's Albert who says to Gordon, it's like, so you're thinking Blue Rose case is like the bluest, which just, So then Gordon goes to the head of the FBI, which turns out to be Denise.
Yes, Denise back.
So this kind of returns us to a conversation we had before. So we'll talk about the form of Denise and everything, and David Duchovny of it all, and then we'll talk about the scene. But yeah, it's we discussed before, we weren't sure if like it was meant to be a man who at that stage, well, you still get drag now, you know, it's a man in drag, or if it is a woman. She clearly refers to herself as a woman in this instance.
Yes.
Something which you made me. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, I think they've sort of made a decision and moved with the times and are now presenting Denise as Denise, which is good. I'm not sure you would have had a male actor play Denise now if this were made now, but then there's also the thing that David Duchovny did originate the role, so what do you do? There's no real right
Well,
answer if you're going to feature that character, I don't suppose.
well, the interesting things which come up in this, which I think, first of all, I think if you are going to have a cis male actor playing it, David Duchovny has to be the one, because he seems sexually a freak from everything that he's said, everything that's been featured. He did that basically softcore porno TV show, the Red Shoe Diaries.
Yep.
Yeah,
Don't
I mean, if
say
you're
it like you don't know what it's called, like you're trying to remember. The Red
I can
Shoe
remember.
Diaries.
No. I think I gave myself way more than you realize there. I went straight to the fact that it was a softcore porn, but I couldn't remember the name of it. That stuck in my mind more, I think. But
Fair enough.
yeah, it was interesting because he does, like, Gordon mentions his prior name and, if you will, identity, and he talks about, oh sorry, the character is a she, but the actors he, but anyway, she talks about, like, her past as a man, which, like, now would be termed dead naming. That wasn't a term which certainly I was familiar with at the time, probably not in the common
No, no.
zeitgeist. It might be known by some, but I do find it, like, what kind of, like, square the circle is like. I mean, I think it was very, again, like we said for the original series, it was progressive for its time. And I think also, like, even though there is this convention of dead naming, and I would never assume that for everyone, but I would have to think there are some trans people who refer to their past in those terms, and especially amongst a friend they knew at the time. I know a lot who don't, but it seems conceivable that there are some who do talk about that time and talk about it just like, oh, that's how I identified at that time. You know, I don't know. It just seems like,
Yeah, no, I
yeah.
think there are people who do that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the warmth of relationship is so much that it there's no question that anything is anything but friendly and accepting in this.
No, absolutely.
I mean, Gordon even refers to her. Sorry, the him her is only because of the actor, but, like, her as a beauty. Like, you know, you can't be the only beautiful woman in the FBI, and it's just lovely. I like
Yeah.
that. That seemed so accepting, so kind of like
Yeah, it did. It's sort of built on, well, like we talked about it at the time, and most of how they did it at the time was pretty good, particularly for the time, and it feels like they've carried that on with, and spoilers, but this is the only time we do see Denise in this run, so it's nice to check in and say, yep, Denise is now the big boss of the whole thing.
It was just glorious, and so I'm just going to say it, very hopeful in a time when perhaps things with the military in America may move the other way, and there's always there was this threat under the first Trump presidency, so that the last mention, but it's just nice to see this symbol of hope in this moment for me, anyway.
Absolutely, yeah.
So yeah, I just love the scene, and they do a callback to, like, Federal Bureau of Investigation. It's just nice to say in full, isn't it? Federal Bureau of Investigation. And I think that's a reference. Gordon does that in the original series, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And also, just on the David Duchovny side of it, it's good of him as an actor that he's now much more famous for playing a different FBI agent, but it's still pretty cool that he would come back and do this again. Do you know what I mean? Like, he could have easily gone, well, hang on, I don't want to be reprising another FBI agent when I'm most famous for the X-Files or whatever. I just think it's cool that there was obviously no ego or anything involved there. It's like, yeah, I'll come back and do that for an episode. That'll be fun.
Yeah, and it's one of my favorite scenes so far. Like, I love those two playing off each other. You forget where Lynch is such a great writer, director, whatever else, filmmaker, that he is also a really fun actor. He's so good at this. And yeah, I think all that's left is when we then they decide there's one person who would know Coop for sure, one person who could define what's going on here, and we see Diane, and it's like, it's the balls of this. It's like, look, everything else that you've done, it seems like it's weird. You've done liberties with these characters. You change some of the characters in big ways, but actually to show Diane, who we only see, well, we never see at all. We just have her
Yeah,
being dictated to,
yeah,
literally
it
dictated
is.
to phone.
Weirdly, it's a massive. It feels like a massive decision to go. We're going to show Diane, and I think they get away with it because it's Laura Dern, and who's a wonderful actress in her own right, but also the links she has to David Lynch. I think Laura Dern in a David Lynch project has like +10 gravitas to what she has regularly, which is not
Yeah.
nothing. Laura Dern's Laura Dern. She's awesome. So I think the fact that it's her takes the sting out of, you showing us Diane. Like, I don't know. I think we
Yeah.
talked about this when we talked about the original show, but I like the trope of the unseen character, and actually showing the unseen character. My gut instinct is to go, no, that's wrong. But
I mean, you don't know how many strongly worded letters I would write to the producers of Cheers if, like in the Frasier reboot, they had Vera show up, or even Maris.
yeah,
More than once.
absolutely.
It would be a crime. I mean, the only way I think you could get away with it is if, like, George Wendt actually passed away and they did it as a tribute somehow.
Yeah,
Like,
it'd have to be something like that. Yeah,
maybe then, but like it's so sacrilegious to show these kind of characters.
yeah,
But it works here. It's perfect.
it does.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say something like, I mean, we don't see much. We'll talk about it next time about Diane's character, because she said 2 words at this point. So we won't preempt that discussion.
But yeah, I think if I missed anything out, I think that's just about everything.
I think it's everything I can cope with at the moment. We've no doubt missed loads out because this is an incredibly dense show, and it's, like I said earlier, and I'd stand by this, I do think this is the craziest thing that's ever been on TV, and I don't think anything like this will ever happen again. But it's fun to dig into it.
If they ever do just one more trip to Peaks, that's all I want. But yeah, I know it's unlikely. But just one other thing quickly. Dougie, when he's outside and he's looking at the statue where he kind of gets transfixed, and he recognizes the guy's badge, he starts pointing to that. So there's little bits of Coop that seems to come through.
It's them bits again where you're just waiting for that. And that's kind of playing with a trope, because when you do like insomnia storylines in soap operas, it will be that like they'll hear the first note of what was their wedding song or something. They'll go, oh my God, I remember everything. And this is emphatically not doing that. It's like he can see a badge, he can have his coffee, he can eat some pie, but you're not getting Coop back yet. So,
and the other thing about that scene where he is looking at the statue, I just love the fact that they it's really noticeable. They go to this kind of wide shot where all the colors look like they've been dialed up. It almost flares in the camera, but it's just obviously a purposeful stylistic choice. And then when they go into the close-up of him, it goes to a realistic camera, if you like.
Yeah.
It shows him just these little minor, like just thrown in there, just hearing that, just everything for David Lynch is purposeful. Everything, like,
yes,
I said before about he sometimes doesn't seem to like care about sound if it's not something very specific to what he shows. So it's like, oh, we need some lightning here. Oh, it's interfering with dialogue. That doesn't matter. I don't think it bothers him because it's not crucial to what he needs in that scene. It's almost like he only discards things if he's not bothered with them as much.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, absolutely wonderful so far. It's everything that I remembered it to be, and just I can't wait to go further down this absolutely batshit wormhole even further. So Jem, just before we go, what we got coming up on Retrek?
On Retrek, we have got the latest episode of Lower Decks, and I believe that's sent us down the rabbit hole to an episode of Enterprise. So that'll be interesting to talk about on Wednesday.
Yeah, I don't remember the name, but it's the episode of Enterprise for any fans of Star Trek where they've got zombie Vulcans, which kind of
Zombie
relate to-
Vulcans.
just great times. Anyway, please do check us out ever on social media and everything like that. And we will be back next week. Monday, good for you again? Monday, 6?
Yeah,
Next week?
yeah. I
We'll see you
believe
next
so.
week, Monday at 6 for episodes 7 through 12. And then, yeah.
Yes. Which includes the notorious episode 8.
Is that the Bob?
Yes.
Oh my God. I Jesus Christ. Yeah, that is peak weirdness. Peak weirdness coming up next week. Guys, please do join us next week. Until next week, please be kind. Or when I say next week, is it next week or the last one?